All right, folks, welcome back to Brisketmedic. Today we've got something very special for you. We're cooking another brisket. I know, big surprise, right? But this one's going to be a little bit different. Stay tuned. I've cooked brisket many different ways, from a Weber kettle to a drum smoker to an offset smoker to a Kamado cooker, and all the ways in between. I've cooked it, but I have never tried this way that I'm doing for you today. I figure if I'm going to be called the Brisketmedic, I need to know how to cook it in every single way and make it turn out absolutely amazing. So today, we cook brisket in an oven. I know, brisket in an oven is absolutely blasphemy in Texas. But we're going to make it turn out amazing. I'm even going to use some food science to make sure it has a smoke ring and a smoky taste. Brisket in an oven. We start out with our brisket and we're going to do a heavy trim on it, mostly because I don't have a deep enough pan to catch all the drippings while it's in the oven, rendering down all that fat. So we want to make sure that we do a heavy trim on it. It's not going to have no fat, but it is going to be a little heavier than I normally do because I want to make sure that that rendered fat doesn't leak everywhere in my oven and cause a fire. After we've got it trimmed down, let's use a little bit of meat science here. We're going to be using a little bit of curing salt to achieve that smoke ring look from cooking in the oven. Now, for every 100 pounds of beef, you use 4 ounces or a quarter pound of curing salt to cure it. Now, we don't want to cure this brisket, we just want to give an image of a smoke ring. So we're going to use that mathematical equation to figure what we need. Now, what we need for this particular brisket would be 12 to 14 pounds, would be somewhere right around, for the ratio of curing salt for meat for this particular brisket, we need 2 to 3 ounces, and we're going to use about half of that at 1.5 ounces. We're going to use 3/4 on one side and 3/4 on the other. And those nitrites in that curing salt is going to react with the myoglobin inside of that beef to retain that red color and create a fake smoke ring. It's going to be great. After that, we're using Uncle Steve's Smoke Bomb, and it's got a great smoky flavor profile. I don't want to use liquid smoke on this, so I'm going to make sure that I coat all the sides, yes, including the sides, the edges, with Uncle Steve's Smoke Bomb and get a great smoky flavor that way. While that's setting in, I'm going to set my convection oven to 250 degrees. Now, it's important that we set this to convection roast because that air movement is going to be key to us building a bark inside of an oven because, well, we don't have the air exchange like we do in a smoker. In a convection oven, it does have an algorithm that it turns on and off a fan ever so often to keep air movement within that oven. Now, that doesn't mean that there's air exchange like there is in an offset pit. So much like when we're cooking in a pellet smoker, we're going to have to take at lower temperatures for a longer amount of time to achieve a good bark. So 250 degrees on a convection roast. As soon as it's up to temp, we're going to put this in there fat side up on a rack with a pan underneath it to catch all the drippings because we don't want mama pissed off. After 3 hours, we're coating this with a Worcestershire sauce and water mixture. Now, I like to use 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce to a cup of water, and I will drizzle that over the brisket, but leaving the rest of that in the pan so it creates a very humid environment for the brisket. And we're gonna let it go for another couple of hours before we check on it. Now, this brisket's been on for 6 hours, and we're keeping this unwrapped. Why? Because there's not air exchange, there's just convection of air. So we're just gonna keep dousing it with a little bit of that Worcestershire sauce and water mixture. We're at the 6 hour mark, do it again. And then at 8 hours, we'll check it again. We were 12 hours into this thing, and it was probe tender. It was probing at 207 degrees at the point and 210 degrees at the flat. The flat may have been a little bit overdone. We'll see when we slice into it, but it's nice and probe tender. So what I'm gonna do now is vent that oven, let it cool off a little bit, set it to my warming setting, which is 160 degrees, and I'm gonna let it set for another 12 hours. Again, this brisket is unwrapped. I'm gonna add more Worcestershire sauce and water mixture and let it stay humid until we're ready to slice. It's been almost 24 hours since we started this brisket, and I can't wait to slice into it. So I'm gonna bring you in, and we're gonna get to slicing, and we're gonna taste it out. This thing has beautiful bark to it. It's got a beautiful glisten to it. That point is nice and soft. It's got a nice crusty bark to it. I'm really impressed with it, to be completely honest with you. And let's go ahead and slice into it. I'd really love to see if this experiment turned out a great smoke ring. You guys be the judge. Looks like a pretty good smoke ring to me, and a delicious bark. I'm excited. Let me get this sliced up and try one for you. And I'll be completely honest, I overcooked this one. It's really tender, but I ain't mad about that. Okay folks, it's the time we've all been waiting for. We need to test this out. Now, it is a little bit overdone. It's very, very tender, pull apart tender. I'd like to be a little bit more firm, but it is juicy. And let's try it with nothing on it. It's very good. It's actually very juicy, a lot more juicy than I thought it would be. It does have that roast taste. I was hoping to get away from that roast flavor by not wrapping it, but it does have that roast flavor. Let's see if dipping it in the au jus will change that any. I'd say dipping it in the au jus gives it that extra smoky flavor from Uncle Steve's Smoke Bomb and a little bit of saltiness that it really needs. So after slicing this, I'm just gonna pour au jus over it, and quite frankly, it's not too far off from a pellet smoker brisket. I'll be honest with you, people who don't eat brisket all the time like we do probably wouldn't know this was done in the oven. I'm both ashamed and impressed by this. Comment down below if you've ever tried this and what results you had. I love you guys. Drink more water, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Peace.